It might be over a year until we potentially see the next Battlefield game release, but that won't stop the rumours that always surround the franchise when it comes to the setting and the time period of the next title. Battlefield 2021, Battlefield 6, Battlefield Bad Company 3. Whatever DICE decide to name it, we will hopefully be seeing the release at some point during 2021, shortly after April. In this video, I'm going to take a look at some of the more convincing arguments and rumours surrounding the next Battlefield game. The objective of this is to have a little bit of fun and spark some discussion in the comments whilst debunking potentially false rumours or hyping up those that I think could potentially hold some water. What do you want to see? As a big fan of Battlefield, and especially the Battlefield 3 and 4 games, I personally want to see a return to a modern setting with all-out war at the core of the game. A premium DLC model with about 4 map packs focusing on different aspects of war, close quarters, air combat, tank warfare, that sort of thing, and then potentially a unique way of allowing all players to enjoy the new content, but those that bought premium receiving bonuses in the form of cosmetics, customization, and other bonuses. I want a game that is easy to get into, but difficult to master, with a focus once again on the community, as we've seen in the past. There are of course many rumours out there that have been purely fabricated by members of the community, so you do have to be careful. As you can see in the background, there are a few examples. The most popular in the past being, if you do remember a few years ago, a fan-made rumour caught the gaming media by storm and caught them all out as they started reporting on a potential setting for what eventually turned out to be Battlefield 1. It goes to show that you shouldn't believe anything you read on the internet unless it's from a reliable source, and even then, you should critique it. As I said though, the purpose of this video is to have a bit of fun and just take a look at what's currently out there. There are some very convincing rumours though. Rumour number 1, Battlefield Bad Company 3. Apparently, a Reddit user by the name of LeakyThrowaway123 allegedly had the opportunity to meet with 2 former DICE employees who left the studio during a bad atmosphere. Again, be careful with these statements as they might not be true at all. They both went on to say that DICE were working on 2 new games before the release of Battlefield 1, with both concepts being prepared at the same time. One of the projects was apparently Bad Company 3 and was designated for release in 2018. Due to whatever circumstances, Battlefield Bad Company 3 was not going to be ready in time, and instead Battlefield 5 was pulled forward, maybe giving reason to the unfinished state of the game. Maybe if Battlefield 5 had been given the time it needed, maybe we could have experienced a really good World War II game. I think that many of the maps have also been adjusted from the concept art in order to get them ready for completion, and also it's fairly obvious that DICE planned something far larger for Battlefield 5, only with the time constraints preventing them from creating the World War II version of Battlefield 1. That being said, the early release of Battlefield 5 might not have been enough to save this other project that we currently believe to be Battlefield Bad Company 3. Apparently, Bad Company 3 was suspended in May 2019, with the idea being the existing progress would be used to create something else. Bad Company 3 has apparently been shelved for another time, as DICE just didn't feel like they would be creating something that naturally followed on from Bad Company 2 in the right way. So what do you make of that rumour? Bad Company 3 is certainly something that many people have been talking about, but according to this rumour, it's not something we're going to be seeing in the next game. Maybe a similar time period and setting, but certainly not under that name, Bad Company. Rumour number 2, Battlefield 2030. Battlefield 3 and 4 are widely regarded as the high point for the Battlefield franchise by many. Surely DICE would want to recapture some of the magic found in those games. If it were up to me and I had to control where we were going next in the franchise, I think that it would be 2020 or 2030 as the next time period. I'd certainly pick up where Battlefield 4 left off and continue to focus on similar themes with slightly modern combat. Maybe, fingers crossed, that is something we'll get. To back up this rumour, if we take a look at that guy from earlier, LeakyThrowaway123, he did actually learn something else from the discussion with the 2 ex-DICE developers. The new instalment is to give up the war theatres from the last two instalments in favour of a classic single-player campaign in the style of Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, with the action being set in 2030, presenting a technological advanced but realistic version of the future. That's apparently what the devs said. Tanks, helicopters, jets, and potentially things such as drones, hover tanks, and anything else DICE have touched on in previous games when it comes to slightly futuristic content. Think Final Stand, DLC in Battlefield 4. A game set just into the future would be perfect, as it gives DICE the creative freedom to create things that cannot annoy the audience. Sure, you might not like playing a game with technology that hasn't been invented yet or used in the field, but it's set in the future, so who really cares? Battlefield 4 had plenty of that stuff, APS being something that exists, but not in the way that you see in Battlefield 4, and of course it's a game, so it's about having fun. In addition to this, DICE apparently want to bring back Levolution, a more unscripted battlefield, meaning players can impact how the map looks and progresses throughout the match, and potentially a completely upgraded destruction system taking advantage of the new consoles. We'll get onto that in a bit, because I think the release date of the consoles certainly does give us some sort of understanding of when the next Battlefield game will actually release. Rumour number 3, Battlefield Vietnam. Another rumour that has been floating about for quite some time is the return of Battlefield Vietnam. Historically, it would make sense for DICE to continue the progression through the history books, looking at major and iconic wars. We've seen Battlefield 1 in World War I, Battlefield 5 in World War II, and then potentially Vietnam could be the next one. It's been done before, and the franchise has of course seen Battlefield Vietnam, loved it, lots of people want to see a return to it, and it would be very popular amongst certain fans. In today's day and age though, where everyone is offended by pretty much everything, would it be a smart idea to centre a game's focus on a grisly and controversial conflict such as Vietnam? Probably not. That being said, the historical argument does make sense. Starting in 1955 and ending in 1975, the Vietnam War could provide DICE with a great opportunity to continue a timeline through history, and the scope for weaponry vehicles and maps would again be really quite vast. It means though they have to hit the nail on the head with historical accuracy, and after Battlefield 5 I personally don't think it's a good idea to put that pressure on themselves in another time period that is fairly sensitive in that regard. In addition to that, the Vietnam War is a war that has quite a lot of scope, 20 years, and they would again have to focus on a specific area of it, because trying to do a game focusing on 20 years is probably too much. We've seen it in Battlefield 5, they've struggled to encapsulate the entire war in one game, and they can't please everybody. The Cold War overall is something that many people wanted to see, and being at similar times to the Vietnam War, DICE could look to focus on several scenarios from the 1960s towards the 1980s. We could see the Korean War, maybe the Iran-Iraq War, Vietnam War, Bay of Pigs invasion, and potentially the Falklands War. Again, a huge project, but definitely would hit the target of all-out war, and certainly separate the Battlefield franchise from the crowd. This idea hasn't really been rumoured that much. I've seen a couple of rumours, but nothing significant. But again, it would probably be quite popular amongst many in the community who like that time period. It's a really interesting setting as technology started to progress once again quite quickly. Rumour number 4, Battlefield 2143. Who remembers Battlefield 2142? Probably not that many of you. Released in October 2006, 2142 was the fourth game in the Battlefield franchise and focused on a huge war between the Pan-Asian Coalition and, as far as I remember, the European Union. The two sides were scrambling for the last piece of land in North Africa as the world had been hit by an ice age, and you got to fight in these massive mechs and have a lot of fun with futuristic weaponry. I don't think it sold very well, with only 200,000 copies in North America in the first year. Still a pretty decent game, but clearly not the setting the vast majority wanted. I'd certainly enjoy playing it if DICE got the gameplay right, because in my opinion it's only about the gameplay. The setting takes care of itself if the game is fun to play. And I would take modern combat or slightly futuristic combat over more historical stuff, but 2143 is super futuristic. It might not be for me. It's probably the weakest rumour of all of these, and it has the weakest chance of being a potential title, But then again, DICE might surprise us with a sudden change. We did see World War I back in 2016, and that surprised everybody. Finally, rumour number 5, a bit of a wild card here. What if we don't get a new Battlefield game at all? Sorry to be that guy, but after the issues we've seen with BF5 and what appears to be a constant flow of developers leaving DICE, could we potentially see an even longer gap before the next Battlefield game releases? EA did come out and say that we should expect to see a new Battlefield game between April 2021 and 2022, but that could obviously mean another 2 years. Imagine if Battlefield 5 is the game we play in March 2022, 2 more years of BF5. That would be a really sad turn of events. We still have many places to visit in Battlefield 5 if DICE want to deliver on their promise. The Russians need to make an appearance, plus I think we'll be seeing some more authentic and classic Second World War settings within the next few chapters, assuming DICE continue to bring them out. DICE have teased that the next Battlefield game will blow people's minds on the next gen consoles, both of which are due to release at the end of 2020 as far as I know, but they said Battlefield isn't releasing a new game till April 2021 at the earliest, so it won't be a launch title. When will it release? Could we be seeing Battlefield 5 move into the new gen territory and then potentially re-release on the new gen consoles? It's an interesting thing to discuss. So let me know what you think of these rumours down in the comments. Have you got a new one to excite us all? Maybe something you've heard from somebody in the know? Please leave a comment and I'll be sure to read it and pin anything that really takes my fancy and gets me excited for the next Battlefield game. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.